So if you've been watching the DNC this week, you have watched all the speeches about Hillary. If you watch the RNC, it was Trump and the Republican Party. They're all doing their dog and pony show to get people to vote for them. And there's been a lot of conversation about which candidate is better, which is the lesser of two evils, who you can vote for, Trump or Hillary. This video, though, is about, is Trump really worse than Hillary? Now, if you came to this video from the last one, thank you. We appreciate it. We hope you like and subscribe all the videos that we do. This one too. If you didn't watch that video, why didn't you? You need to go watch that video because it's really good. We hope you do. So, is Trump really worse than Hillary? I submit to you, I don't think so. What do you think?
You don't think so? You don't?
Yeah. I don't know if we can say Trump is worse than Hillary. Now, I know some of y'all are like, oh my God.
Trump supporter.
No, I'm not. Trust me. I mean, the man can even run a business. He went bankrupt 4 times. But that's a whole other conversation. The point is, I really think we need to talk about this. Like, there's an assumption that Trump is worse than Hillary because of what he says. But that would only be true if Hillary did things that are different than what he says. Is that the case? That's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Starting with you. Do you think that Trump is really that much worse than Hillary?
No. And also, as a prelude, what I'm also going to say is I want to introduce to everyone another poll from Gallup, and in the U.S., the new record for political independence right now. I'm sorry, the new record for people's political affiliation is 43% political independence. 43% of voters right now identify as independent. That is very critical going into this general election, where we have 2 of the candidates that are the primary frontrunners that have the worst approval ratings in U.S. history. The worst approval
U.S.
ratings
history,
in US
folks.
history. So that's it's very critical that we understand that going into the election when people are telling you that you have to vote a certain way in order to receive a certain outcome. So pertaining to Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, whether one is worse than the other, I'm sure many of you have already, gone across my Facebook walls.
Yes.
You can see a lot of my positions pertaining to this subject matter.
Yes.
Specific.
Yes.
And you know how I feel about this. There is nothing that Trump has said that trounces what Hillary Clinton has done.
That's
in
key,
positions
people.
of power.
Pay attention to that. Think about what he said. As bad as Trump's rhetoric has been, women bleeding everywhere, I don't like black people counting my money, I prefer little men with yarmulkes, Mexican rapists, banning all Muslims, getting the Russians to hack the DNC so that they could get Hillary's missing 30,000 emails. As bad as all that is, mocking a disabled person, picking at a veteran who was a POW, all of that, he's saying it's not worse than what Hillary's done. So give us an example of some things Hillary's done.
All right, so even if you're talking about anti-Semitism or anti-Muslim rhetoric or whatever like that, right? So we hear a lot of really horrible rhetoric coming from Donald Trump's campaign, or from Donald Trump's mouth, which is everywhere. Yeah. But people forget it was the Hillary Clinton campaign that released those really damaging photos of Obama in Muslim garb. And the purpose of releasing those images was because the Hillary campaign and her surrogates believed that there was something inherently wrong with being Muslim. So if they release those images to people, people will stop and say, oh, well, I guess Obama is a terrorist.
This is actually true.
Because Muslims are equivocal to terrorism, right?
Yeah,
We
actually saw this in the 2008 campaign, just to cut in real quick, that this is where the birther movement started.
Yes.
People think it started with Fox News and Donald Trump. They're the ones who fed that baby and grew that baby up. Mm-hmm. That baby was born in the Hillary campaign when she was running against Obama, and it was a campaign to do, oh, well, he's not American.
He's not American. That's where the suspicion came from. So even Donald Trump's entire birther movement, as you were saying, was birthed through the Hillary Clinton campaign. So if you believe that Donald Trump is anti-Muslim, if you believe that Donald Trump is degrading to Muslim people and their women, that started from Hillary Clinton. She began that. She pushed that into motion. Not to mention the amount of atrocities that she's advocated for in Middle Eastern countries against Muslim people, women, men, children. She's advocated for no-fly zones, which would ultimately be a consequence of mass murder and death in the region. Right? She's advocated for bombings of Libyan people. She's advocated against the two-state solution between the Palestinians and Israel. I was going to say Israelites, but Palestinians and Israel. Like, so those kinds of decisions, those kinds of policies lead to more bloodshed, lead to more war, lead to more disaster, death, misery. So everything that she embodies as an official, as a public official, has been against humanitarian efforts or any kind of conscious consideration for Muslim people.
And that's important
versus
because
his rhetoric.
Yeah, that's important because when you hear Donald Trump say that we want to kill terrorists and kill their families, that is shocking. It's grotesque. It has shock value, which is his goal. Make no mistake, he's a con artist and a brand manager. I mean, he's always trying to get himself in the news. So when you hear that, you go, oh my God, I can't believe Donald Trump said that. But then when you start looking at Hillary Clinton's foreign policy, you look at Obama's foreign policy, where they use drones, and drones have a rate of 90% of the time they're killing civilians. We just recently, while everybody was talking about the RNC and the DNC, there was just an airstrike led by the United States in Syria that killed 80 civilians. Like, look at the pictures, people. It is online. Children are laying in the rubble and they're dead. This is the same administration that Hillary beams about. This administration just recently hit a Doctors Without Borders hospital and wouldn't admit it until they were pressed in it. So what you see when you're looking at this is important. The media tells you, you hear us say this all the time, this is why we're called Bothersome Truth, because we know it annoys you that we're telling you that you can't believe what you see, but it's still true, whether we tell you or not. We know it's going to bother you, but it's still the truth. When people talk about how bad Trump is, like on foreign policy, or here's a great example. Trump and that wall. You hear people talk about him and that wall, and they're like, how dare he build a wall? But didn't Hillary support building a wall?
Supported building a fence and a wall along the Mexican border. Like, she supported that. She voted for that when she was in office. It's the same damn thing. She voted for that thing. In fact, Donald Trump, being, of course, a lifelong friend of the Clintons, probably got the idea from fucking her.
Yeah, because he did fund them. I mean, they went to his wedding, I believe. So here's the thing. Let me now offer a little bit of the other side.
And I just wanted to note a bit of irony, too. We're criticizing Donald Trump about the wall. The DNC literally had a wall erected around the convention in order to keep Bernie Sanders supporters out. I want you to think about that right now. The DNC, in order to keep out the people that were the detractors at the event, right? The people that they want to shut out from being able to speak their opinion, built a wall so they could prevent them from doing so.
Yeah, and let me offer a little bit of the other side too, because we try to be fair and balanced, even though we have our positions and we make them clear to you. Donald Trump, to me, is a con artist. He's incompetent. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't even know what he's doing when it comes to business. This is the Donald Trump who we found out during the RNC offered the VP position to John Kasich, who he ran against and defeated, and offered to give John Kasich control over domestic policy and foreign policy. That means you're president. Like you're doing the whole job. Donald Trump I don't think he really wants to be president. This is a man who has failed 4 businesses, okay, and kept his money intact. This is a man who does not look out for his workers. This is a man who has a history of racist practices when it comes to his properties going back to 1973. Okay, the Department of Justice ruled against him and he had to make concessions. You can look it up online. So Donald Trump has this history of incompetence. Keep in mind, when you go to like a Trump Towers or a Trump Hotel, he didn't build that. He put his name on it. They paid to have his name on it. He can't build projects because the man doesn't know what he's doing. So keep that in mind. And yet still, with all that, we are telling you that when you look at Hillary's foreign policy, she is the master of the status quo. If people want what they've had for the last 4, 8 years, 12 years under Clinton, then that's pretty much what you're going to get. Now, to be fair to her, she has been pushed more to the left because of Bernie's supporters and Bernie's campaign. But we don't know if she's going to stay there.
I don't believe that.
A good example of this is one of her friends who also holds a position with the Democratic Party. I can't remember his name. It's not on top of my head right now. They asked him about TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which Bernie supporters are against because it's going to do such that it's going to give corporations even more power in other governments, and it's not going to help us build jobs here. He said, oh, well, Hillary says she's against it. She's going to come back to it once she becomes president. She knows she just has to say what people want to hear right now. And Hillary's campaign didn't like that. But this is why we don't trust Hillary, because we believe everything that she says, no matter what she says, is simply to get the votes now so that she can become president.
And do whatever she wants with carte blanche. So, I mean, she's oozing with dishonesty. And I mean, if you are an unbiased, objective observer, you can look at her and tell. And this is a part of the appeal of Trump and why he's resonating with so many people, is because at the very least, his supporters believe he's being honest. And the same thing could be said about Bernie Sanders. The reason why he did so well is because people believe him to be honest. You can ask the most ardent Republican supporter on the Republican side of the aisle about Bernie Sanders, and they will say, hey, I disagree with him on policy, but at least he's honest. With Hillary Clinton, we know this person is a stubborn liar, and she's a pathological liar. And so, I don't want to get too deep into the rhetoric. I want to talk about actual policies. So we know that on foreign policy, she's adamantly opposed to the concept of letting people